For the last 30 years, German companies have been investing in Bulgaria to make it a better place to live, work, and conduct business. In this exclusive podcast series, the German-Bulgarian Chamber of Industry and Commerce tells the story of how two cultures meet and work together to create better prospects for Bulgarian society. Let's talk business with the leaders of the most prominent German companies in Bulgaria.
Hello again. In this exclusive podcast series, we're celebrating 30 years of German economy in Bulgaria. My name is Irina Obushtarova, and today I'm meeting with the CEO of Lufthansa Technik Sofia, Mr. Daniel Hoffmann. Lufthansa Technik Sofia is the largest aircraft overhaul company in Eastern Europe and the largest base of Lufthansa Technik network in Europe. The company is specialized in base and line maintenance services for Airbus and Boeing aircrafts. The division of Lufthansa Technik in Sofia employs more than 1,300 people. Daniel Hoffmann was part of the core team from the very beginning and took over the management of Lufthansa Technik expansion project in Sofia. As CEO, he's been now serving for over 5 years. Daniel Hoffmann, last but not least, is also on the board of the directors of the German-Bulgarian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and is one of the biggest ambassadors of Bulgaria to German investors. Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Irina. Looking forward to.
You have been part of the team of Lufthansa Technik from the very start in 2007. I guess you have very interesting observations. You participated also in the negotiation of the joint venture agreement with the Bulgarian aviation group. Do you remember the key reasons behind your decision to invest in Bulgaria back then, and which were the most important stakeholders that helped you land it in Sofia?
Of course, I remember that very well. And indeed, 2007, I moved over here to Bulgaria with my family. But the whole joint venture negotiations and meeting the companies that would support the establishment of this company, we started to meet them already in the year 2005. And the reasons why we've actually decided to invest in Bulgaria were actually a couple. So first of all, aviation played always a major role in Bulgaria. The Balkan Air company was the second largest aviation group after Aeroflot in the Eastern European area. So that played a big role because there was sufficient knowledge and people available in the country. Second of all, the geographical location of Bulgaria is ideal for our business because here we are doing the so-called short-range aircraft, Airbus and Boeing, and usually our customers are flying up to 5,000 kilometers to ferry fly the aircraft to our base. And being here located in southeastern Europe, we can catch the whole European area, and we're also catching the North African market, the Mid East market, and the whole Eastern European market. So it's geographically very well located to have a broad options of customers that we can acquire for our business. But also most important are the strong ties which we are having between Bulgaria and Germany, and we felt very warm welcome from the very moment we started to present our business and investment idea here to the various administration, municipalities, ministries, but also to the companies here in the aviation market, as well as to the Civil Aviation Administration. And all of us supported us and were very much paving the way for our project to be realized. And the main institutions which are here maybe worth mentioning is, of course, the Institute of Air Transport, which from the very beginning are training all our mechanics which are working in our company, but also Mixed Construction, the company which has built our entire facility here and did all the renovation work and for all the expansions. They were always delivering on budget and on time. And of course, the whole governmental support which we've received from the Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy, that was tremendous, the tailwind that we have received from all kinds of administrations and companies.
Oh, it's good to hear that. Yeah. Over the years, with your joint venture partner, you have invested in more than 100 million euros in extending your capacity and services in Sofia. I guess you also doing that gave confidence to further invest in the country. And how would you describe the current business climate in Bulgaria?
So the current business climate, I would still rate this as very positive. If you are looking here at Sofia Airport, there are so many new companies which are being established, and the existing companies are growing. If you look on the MROs at Sofia Airport, also at the airlines. The Sofia Airport itself, SoftConnect, is having figures that from year to year, again, the business is growing and more passengers are being transported. So the business climate is very good. The reputation of Bulgaria is very, very good, and that is why we were able to invest more than 100 million euros now here into this joint venture. And the main reason behind is actually the skills and the ambition of the Bulgarian workforce, which have proven right from the beginning that here in Bulgaria you can deliver on time, on budget, and to the right quality, and that gave so much confidence to our headquarters to invest further here in Bulgaria.
For German standards.
Yes,
wow.
for German standards. That was actually one of the biggest concerns when we were back in 2006, 2007 trying to convince our board of directors to establish this facility. And if you remember, by that time there was not yet the ring road fully established, the roads were in a terrible condition, and the big skepticism was, how can you actually build an aviation company in an environment that cannot even keep the streets in a proper condition. But from the very beginning, we have shown that even the very high Lufthansa cabin standard can be met by our mechanics right from the beginning. And that gave so much confidence that only after 1 year of operations, it was already decided to grow this company from a 2-bay operation to a 5-bay operation.
Wow.
Plus then in 2011 from a 5-bay operation to an 8-bay operation.
Wow, this is very interesting. Maybe we can also speak a bit about the future. What's coming ahead? Can you maybe shed some light on the long-term strategy for the country, and how do you see Lufthansa Technik Sofia division or the development of the division in the next, I don't know, 10 to 20 years?
So our company is celebrating this year in October the 15th anniversary. And if you are looking back to that history, in hindsight, the company has always grown. It, as I said, it started as a 2-bay facility, then we added another 3 bays, then another 3 bays have been added in 2017, 2018. So in terms of production capacity, we have already quadrupled, but that's not all. In 2011-12, it has also been decided to allocate a lot of central administrative services here in Sofia. And in the meantime, we have between 600 to 700 colleagues which are working mainly in logistics environment, in vendor management, in purchasing, but also in IT services, quality services. So it's very, very diverse, the services which are now allocated here in Bulgaria. And looking now forward, I see no reason why this trend should actually be stopped and why that should not continue. We are currently discussing with our joint venture partner and with our headquarters in Germany plans for a further expansion of our production capacity here. So that's already under full investigation, and plans are already being made. And we are also looking into options in allocating more administrative jobs here in Sofia as well. So if we are looking at the linear growth that happened in the last 15 years, I'm pretty confident that this will continue as well. The main obstacle that could happen is actually the availability of workforce. And that's one of the hot topics here in Bulgaria, or especially in Sofia, that the unemployment rate is extremely low, and that there's a fierce battle on the labor market for talents. That is actually the main obstacle that I would see for realizing our growth plans.
What types of professionals are currently hardest to find?
Well, I think I don't need to talk about the IT market here, because we have some IT experts as well, but it's not the majority of our workforce, and that is probably on the labor market the fiercest battle for the IT experts. We are fighting, of course, a lot for the mechanics, and on the mechanics market there are now also a lot of companies which are doing aircraft repair and overhaul services here in Sofia. Mm-hmm. So the demand for mechanics has increased significantly, and also for logistics people. If you're just looking outside, you have so many logistics companies here next to us, Orbit, DHL, and there are a lot of companies. And if you're working in the logistics environment, most of the people have data analytics skill, which is also usable in other industries. So it's we are competing not only mechanics to mechanics and logistic people to logistics people. We are actually competing on the labor market with any kind of shared services center and industries in Bulgaria and in Sofia.
Just a quick question, because it made me curious. I do have a good overview of how difficult it is when it comes to IT specialists. But if you have to compare, what is harder to find, IT specialists or the right mechanics in your industry?
So the challenge with the mechanics is that we are recruiting them from technical schools, from universities, and most of them have not so much or sometimes not any aviation background yet. And we are training them, so we give them a 1-year training program, 6 months of theory, which is executed by our partners from the Institute of Air Transport. 6 months is the on-the-job training in our hangar at the aircraft. And it takes 3, 4, 5 years until they are growing up in the qualification and authorization system. And really, they bring value after 4 or 5 years when they're able to inspect and certify their own work. And it hits us very hard if we are losing the people after such a high degree of maturity. And that's why it's not really comparable. If you're hiring an IT expert, you're looking for a specific skill that the IT expert is able to deliver value right in the moment when you're employing him, whereas the mechanics have a growth path, and that's why it's not so much comparable.
This is also probably the place where I can also ask you, what are the opportunities for professionals in the Lufthansa Technik? Like, how is this also division different than other employers, let's say in Bulgaria?
Well, the great thing is, of course, that we are working in an environment which is extremely attractive because we're working in aviation. If you will have later the chance to see our hangars and our operations, you are seeing aircraft which are completely disassembled, the cables are hanging around, the cabin is being removed, the aircraft structure is being freed, and we are doing the modern inspection techniques with X-ray inspection, thermographic inspections, eddy current inspections, and then we are repairing it up to latest repair standards. And that makes it, of course, very, very interesting to work in this environment, and that is really, really unique. That is, of course, very much focused now on the mechanics career, but as mentioned earlier, we're having about 350 jobs here in the logistics area, so from supply chain management to vendor management, purchasing, planning, warehouse management, etc. So we are having the whole portfolio of logistics jobs. We are having a huge department here for planning and engineering. And when the decision has been made in 2011 and 2012 to allocate these central services here in Sofia, these jobs are actually serving also our facilities in Malta, in Budapest, and in Puerto Rico, which makes it also very interesting because our people are able to travel and to visit these locations. We have staff exchange programs with these locations, so it makes it very interesting to work in that international environment. And of course, we have also a lot of contacts and interfaces to our headquarters in Germany. And as a big company, now we are more than 1,300 people which are employed at Lufthansa Technik Sofia. We have, of course, all kinds of career opportunities, whether it's a horizontal growth or vertical growth. And as mentioned, our people can also apply, of course, for jobs in different locations of Lufthansa Technik.
Now, let's talk a bit about the industry and where the industry is currently. And what do you think are the big challenges, but maybe also the big opportunities in front of the aviation industry currently, and what are the client needs? What makes, which are the opportunities that can be captured currently on the market?
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. We had about a month ago, we had a big leadership event in Munich, and the CEO of Airbus was invited to that event. And he actually summarized the challenges very well, that we are now in the 4th revolution phase of aviation. The first was to make aircraft fly at all against the odds of physics. The second was to make it commercially available. The third, to make it economically viable. And now we are in the 4th phase of the revolution. We need to go green, and that's the biggest challenge. And you know that especially during the time of the pandemic, the reputation of airlines and of aviation in general has a little bit suffered because aviation has been seen in the media as one of the contributors to the CO2 emission and to have an adverse effect to the climate. That's why all airlines, including Lufthansa and also the MROs which are repairing, are having huge programs to go green, to have a higher amount of energy which is gained from renewable energies, but also to have a lot of R&D activities to go to zero emissions. I think in 2050 it is planned that aviation should be carbon neutral. And of course, as a Lufthansa group and as Lufthansa Technik, we have our contribution for that. So that's definitely one of the challenges, that we need to safeguard the reputation, and it shouldn't be shameful if people are traveling. But if we are seeing now how fast aviation and air travel has bounced back actually after the pandemic, it is already on the right track, and I think the airlines, especially Lufthansa, is taking its role very seriously.
What are if you do want to go net zero by 2050, how are you going to make it? Is it possible? Is it realistic? And what steps is actually Lufthansa Technik taking into this direction?
Yeah, first of all, it must be possible. I mean, there will be definitely a way. The R&D activities are, of course, mainly on the manufacturer side, like Airbus and Boeing. They are testing also new engine with the engines manufacturers. In terms of Lufthansa Group, we are renewing the aircraft. That means we are going to much more energy efficient aircraft types to reduce the carbon footprint. And we, as a Technik company, we are also having a lot of targets that we need to achieve. We need to reduce our chemical waste that we are producing. We need to increase the recycling rate. We need to increase the energy rate that we are getting from renewable energies, and many others. So we're having a huge project running currently in our company that is contributing to the Lufthansa Group targets to go green and to become carbon neutral.
And when it comes to Lufthansa Technik, what is the role in today's context when it comes to innovations in artificial intelligence and maybe also automation?
Yes, we are having a huge digital department which is running the digital transformation, especially for our segment, the aircraft overhaul, aircraft-based maintenance. And there we are developing a lot of innovations, like we want to go also away from paperwork. So we don't want to document the work we are doing on the aircraft anymore on paper. We want to go completely digital. That will also have a very positive environmental impact. On top of that, we are having already in our logistics department the first robotics, which are doing automated vendor research, market research, and so on, and are supporting our purchasing department in finding the best possible options. And we are experimenting with artificial intelligence, especially in the planning and engineering area. So where we are predicting what kind of defects an aircraft can have, where we are reviewing what kind of milestones an aircraft overhaul event needs to have, and we are reviewing that with artificial intelligence against the actual data. And that is not something which is going to be ready in the next few months. This is more a long-term project. We are hoping that by processing this data and processing it via artificial intelligence, we will improve our quality of predicting the length an aircraft needs to be staying on ground, and also optimizing the sequence of works our mechanics need to do in order to minimize the ground times. Because each day an aircraft is in the hangar means, of course, a loss of revenue for the airline that is owning this aircraft. That's why it is a competitive advantage if you are reducing the ground times of the check to the minimum possible.
If you can a bit elaborate in this context of your future objectives towards sustainability, but also innovation in terms of digitalization and including artificial intelligence practices in your work. What kind of skill sets are you going then to be looking for when you grow the team here in Sofia? Is it going to affect?
You mean specifically the digital team, which is driving the innovations? Of course, there we need the people similar to the.
It's going to be even bigger.
Yeah. So there, I mean, we're looking to a very similar profile like the IT startup scene here. We're looking for people which are creative, which are hardworking, which are willing to challenge the status quo and come up with new ideas and ways how to do things. And how it will impact then our staff, which is currently doing still the manual work, is very hard to predict. But in the end of the day, we are working in a very manual business, and we are working in a business that is safety critical. So we will always need humans, and we will always need human intelligence to perform the work. But our expectation is that the digital transformation will support the human work to have a better predictability and have a better foundation of decision making.
I remember long years ago, I was listening to the keynote of ex-Lufthansa pilot, and he was actually sharing a lot about this mindset to look at errors and failures and mistakes, and it is definitely part of the culture in the industry, and it's super important because safety and the safety of people, especially when you're transporting people, is super important. I guess it is also valid for Lufthansa Technik.
Extremely. I mean, you can imagine we have one of these checks. If you have a bigger check of an older aircraft, it easily consumes up to 15,000 man-hours. And you can imagine that each of these man-hours needs to be actually flawlessly executed in order to ensure the safety of the aircraft. And in order to reach that, we need to focus a lot on our safety culture. And that's what we are doing significantly. And there, the Technik departments have very much learned from the pilots and from the safety cultures of the airlines, because we need to embrace mistakes and we need to embrace failures that are happening. And that is actually a mindset change. The Technik divisions have always been a bit more conservative in the approach and were more looking for guilt and blame, but this has now been completely transformed, and we are embracing every mistake that is happening. Any maintenance error is actually an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to make the organization more resilient. So instead of looking for somebody to blame, instead of looking for a guilty person, we are looking into maximizing the learning from a specific event, and we are involving the people which have been involved in an incident or have been causing a mistake, rather in the solution finding of having a preventive action in place that this specific error or mistake cannot repeat. And that is what we are focusing on. And it's also very important that our employees are working in an environment that is psychologically safe. And that's why we are investing a lot into leadership development, that our leaders are treating our colleagues in a way that they work in a psychological safe environment, which is driving up performance, which is automatically giving more empowerment and engagement to our people. And what would be the worst thing is that could happen is that people feel afraid and are not ready or not willing to share mistakes and to raise their hands if they have any concerns. Yeah, but we are also having regular meetings where we are getting together with all our facilities worldwide which are doing aircraft overhaul and aircraft maintenance. And on these meetings we are exchanging also maintenance errors that occurred, that we are making sure that learnings which are happening in one facilities are also exported to our sister companies.
So 2007, I remember that year because that's actually when I left Bulgaria, and it's also the year when we joined the European Union.
Yes.
So in this regard, I was actually also curious to pick on your observations. How important was actually the membership of Bulgaria into the European Union for improving the business climate?
I think it was absolutely crucial. I think without the accession to the European Union, we would have had a much harder time convincing our board of directors to invest into Bulgaria. Being a member of the European Union is somehow kind of a guarantee for political stability, for juridical stability, for a good investment climate, free movement of labor, free movement of goods, and that's for us also very important. The majority of the material stocks, our work is not only labor intensive, it's also material intensive, and whatever we get within the European Union, we can get the materials without customs clearance. We see much bigger difficulties if material needs to come from an area outside of the European Union. So it played a major role for the decision making. And on the shortlist actually, and competing against the facility or the city of Sofia for realizing this joint venture, were actually the cities of Kiev and Moscow, and which were not and are still not members of the European Union. And in hindsight, it is showing us that we exactly went down the right way and took the right decision to invest here in Sofia and not in the other two competing cities.
You're also a member of the board of directors of the German-Bulgarian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and from what I hear, one of the biggest ambassadors for Bulgaria to German investors. Why did you decide to get more involved in the work of the chamber?
First of all, one of our very first contacts when we came here to Bulgaria in 2005 was the Chamber of Commerce. We had a meeting set up with the German embassy, but then when we asked more detailed questions about the business climate here in Bulgaria, we have been directly referred to, actually immediately we were transferred to Mitko Vasilev, who was heading the Chamber of Commerce now for 30 years, as we know, and with Dr. Vasilev giving us so many advices and so many background information about Bulgaria, it reinforced us and gave us a lot of confidence that Bulgaria is the right place to invest into. And the Chamber of Commerce has paved the way for us to have meetings to the decision makers in the politics, but also paved the way to have access to other industries and other successful German investments here in Bulgaria. And we were using them to convince our board. So we were bringing them to, at that time, it was called Balkans Star, which is now Silver Star. We brought our board of directors to Festo, which is doing microchips here for pneumatic sensors. And so we received a lot of support from the chamber, from the companies which are members of the chambers and which are also represented in the board of directors of the chambers. So it was actually time to give back that passion and that enthusiasm about our successful investment here and attract new investments. I think the country deserves it. The people of Bulgaria deserve it, that foreign investments are taking place here. And that's why I always volunteered, and I'm passionate about being an ambassador of the investment climate here in Bulgaria, but also in general about the country of Bulgaria, because I think it's one of the most underestimated countries in the world. People who have never been in Bulgaria have a completely different understanding and picture about Bulgaria. And I don't know anyone that traveled to Bulgaria that has been not completely amazed by the friendliness of the people, by the beauty of the nature, and investors also about the successful investments that you can actually undertake here in this country.
Wow. You have been personally here for the first time in 2005?
Yeah, the first business trip was in 2005.
Well, these were very different times. Which were the first impressions that you had? And maybe is there a prejudice that you had, or when you arrived here, that was completely shattered after you spent some time here?
First of all, I studied from 96 to 98. I studied in Budapest, and by that time, Budapest has also by far not been as developed as it is today.
Okay.
And so I had already contacts with, I must say, Central Europe. Hungary considers itself as Central and not as Eastern Europe. So I had already some experience with that. So I was not totally shocked. And actually, with our very first CEO we were the first two people that relocated here. And we were both actually enjoying Bulgaria and Sofia from the first moment. So there were actually very, very little negative anecdotes, I can tell. I mean, the first thing that every foreigner I think gets annoyed with are the fake taxis which are ripping you off. Sometimes very unfriendly stuff in shops or in hotels or in restaurants. So, but that has all, in the meantime, I think, significantly improved. But these are the usual negative experiences foreigners are making here. But the positive experiences are by far outweighing it.
You mentioned your leadership program and that you actually also invest a lot in leadership development. You yourself grew as a leader within the Lufthansa Technik group. I wonder, did you have a mentor? What helped you along the way to start thinking as a leader?
I can't remember that I had a mentor at a certain time. What has helped me is, of course, to look at people which are idols, which are acting in a way and behaving in a way which I think is worth copying is maybe the wrong word, but yes, exactly. And but I did, of course, also some leadership trainings, and I really appreciate that we have revived quite intense leadership trainings here for all our leaders in our company. But I think what helped me is to remain always as authentic as possible and empathic as well, and to be always there for people. My doors are always open, so everybody, I'm easily accessible. I'm trying every day to walk also in the production floor, to be visible. I'm trying to avoid having meetings in my office. I always visit the people in their offices or in their areas when I'm having meetings with them. So I try to be accessible, I try to be reachable, try to be as empathic as possible and also as supportive as possible. So I'm trying to help our colleagues to succeed, and we are emphasizing here a lot on servant leadership, on pulling the teams up and on raising teams up, rather than on pushing in tasks and on setting deadlines and on just receiving output. I think that is the completely outdated and old-fashioned way of working and managing. And I'm really happy that the whole Lufthansa group is actually now focusing on that leadership style as well.
For those who are now aspiring a career in leadership within the Lufthansa Technik group, what would you share with them? What would be your mantra or like a tip?
I would always say be passionate about the work. Look critically in what you're doing, and if this is really the right thing that you want to do, and that is really fulfilling you and giving you pleasure and enthusiasm. And if that is answered positively, then you can almost then it's almost guaranteed that you are going to be successful. And then just be the right person, be authentic, be there for the people, be a good listener. These are, I think, the biggest skill set that a good leader should have.
I wonder, is it different to manage Bulgarians and to be a leader of Bulgarians
So
than being anywhere else?
in general, I think the discussion of intercultural diversity within Europe is, to my understanding, a bit exaggerated. I think we in Europe, we are quite similar. In my times in the Philippines, it was quite worthwhile to have a bit of intercultural training and to understand the different emotion and different perceptions of, for example, the Filipino culture. That's definitely different. But here in Bulgaria, I experience and witness the people of being responsible, being ambitious. They want to be empowered. You can have a very direct communication and direct feedback. I do not really see major differences to our German culture, but it could also be that if I would return back to Germany, that I would probably need a reintegration course to work again in the German environment. So for me, the Bulgarian environment, working now 13 years with the Bulgarian colleagues, has become totally normal, and maybe I have forgotten how work in the headquarters in Germany is actually like. I think Bulgaria as a country, Bulgarians as employees, they have become very professional, very, very straight, very direct, and also very efficient.
Daniel, thank you so much for this conversation.
Oh, it was a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you also for hosting us in your wonderful office. We do have this magnificent landscape behind us.
It is amazing, yeah, and it's always a big pleasure to see the Vitosha mountain, which is, I think, one of the biggest assets Sofia has. Yeah, this mountain is amazing.
And I'm not saying goodbye because I'm still going on this tour.
Absolutely, we'll do that now.